Hey everybody, welcome to day 106, and we are reading Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 18. And so in this passage, we see the parable of the dishonest manager, and Jesus is talking to his disciples with some Pharisees listening in on the conversation. And he tells the story of a manager or a steward, which is somebody who's basically managing someone else's property, wealth, etc. And another person comes to tell the master that this manager is mishandling funds. Essentially, we find out that he's embezzling money. And what happens is Jesus actually tells them, of course, that he's doing the wrong thing, but he commends him on his shrewdness, which can be a little confusing when you're thinking about the sin that is occurring and what Jesus is commending. So we have to look at this story and this parable in a few layers. One is basically the manager knows that he's being called to give an account of the books. And Jesus is then saying, we're going to all be called to give an account of what we've done with what we have here on earth. And it's not all about just money. It's about our time and our talents and how we are spending our days, because we know those days are limited and sometimes more limited in certain aspects. For example, if you're a parent, what you do with your time and discipling your children, that is a little bit more limited, because when they're under your roof, you only have them for so long. And then when they move out, while you can still try to share wisdom and give advice, they are then independent adults at that point. And so what Jesus is saying is we're going to all be called to give an account of how we prioritize and how we spent our time and money and talents. And so we need to think with an eternity mindset when we look at those aspects of our life. And then Jesus is also saying if we as Christians would deal with sharing the gospel with as much vigor and zeal as this man who's being shrewd with his money, and then the church would be in a much better place and would be sharing faith in a much bigger and better way. So sometimes when we look at this idea of the business mind of things, church and sharing the gospel, we could do a little bit more if we had that urgency and used our time and resources as wisely as maybe a big company. And so Jesus is saying all these things, and as the Pharisees are listening in, of course, they don't like what he's saying because they are typically lovers of money more than anything else. And Jesus says you cannot serve two masters. You cannot love both God and money. Now, you can have both. You can have money and still love God, but you cannot serve both. So if your whole life revolves around making money or finding ways around kind of the rules of and guidelines of how to make that money, then you are then serving another master, and you cannot serve both. You cannot serve two masters. This isn't to say you can't work two jobs, because jobs are different than this scenario. He is equating a master and a slave kind of relationship here. And so the Pharisees, of course, don't like that because they realize they're being called out because God looks at the heart, and the Pharisees know that their hearts are more about money than about that relationship with Jesus. So it does wrap up this little section with a mention again of divorce and what that looks like and what is allowable. And it's just a reminder that when we look at our lives and how we spend our time and our efforts, if we are married, then we need to make sure that our marriage is a priority and that we shouldn't divorce for just any reason. There are some biblical reasons to divorce, And outside of that, we need to find ways to work on our marriage, even when it's hard. So this passage definitely reminds us that there is accountability for what we do, what we say, and that while God is looking at the heart, that we need to continue to focus on those areas of our life where God has given us many things. And he says in this passage, he who does much with a little will be given more. And he's saying that, money is not that big a deal to him. And so if you're given money, to use it wisely, to be faithful with your accounts, and to use those wisely. Same thing with your time and your resources. We equate that with the same idea as this money. So use your time, resources, and money wisely, and have a great day.